Hi, welcome. It is the Nisha Jackson Show. I'm Rusty Humphreys, just here hanging out for the ride. She's Nisha Jackson, and thank you so much for being here. This is a part two. This is a two-part series here. The brain, yo, the brain. Because the last show, you couldn't get all the brain stuff you wanted to get in, right?
We're going to brain out again.
And we got to do the 100 breaths, which was a big thing that you learned at your camp.
That's right.
Was Bill Murray at the camp? Was that Camp North Star?
Oh, man, I wish.
And you know what? It kind of fits, It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. That's kind of the message of the camp, wasn't it? Of the retreat.
Oh, my gosh, totally. I have to say, I don't think I've belly laughed as much as I did in those 8 days. I laughed and cried and all sorts of other things. So much, but the laughing was so therapeutic. I mean, it really was. People aren't laughing enough.
I mean, it doesn't sound. I mean, no offense, but Camp Rhythmia does not sound like a stand-up comedy club.
Definitely not a stand-up comedy, but it was so. There were so many funny times, and a lot of it was just watching people go through it and connecting with people. Oh my gosh, Rusty, I can't believe I'm going to admit this, but I admit a lot of stuff on this show. I cannot believe my eyes were opened up in that week to how vitally important human connection is. Like vitally, like for longevity and for happiness, for people just to live longer. There's one necessity for people to live longer. There's one really important ingredient more than anything else in the whole world, and that's human connection. And guess what? With these things today, we don't have enough human connection. Like, we're connected to our phone.
All right, so what you're telling me is, as a single guy in his 50s whose kids have all moved out of the house, I'm just counting down the minutes. I might as well. It's about over for me, huh? Yeah,
you might go tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm thinking maybe even in the middle of the show. Hey, good for your ratings, though. And then he died. No.
Yeah, human connection. And we had this massive overdose of human connection that week. And I just realized, this is the part I can't believe I'm going to admit, is that I think, and I think a lot of people in business today, or people that are just kind of going through their life, I think a lot of my human connection with people, with the exception of some people, some very close people, I think a lot of my human connections were because I was getting something from that. I'm going to agree to be with you because you're going to give this to me. And that happens a lot in today's world because it's not just genuine, I want to hang out with you for a while. It's like, I'll do this and I'll fit it into my jammed up schedule because I'm going to get something from you.
Right.
And that's awful. That's an awful way to be, because human connection is the most precious thing that we have access to. And we don't use it enough, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's like fading away, and hanging out with somebody and really being present, not hanging out with them and like answering it. Oh, don't worry, I'm listening, as they're, on their phone. It's not that. It's like I love the movie Avatar. My most favorite movie is Avatar. And you know how they like connect up, they would come and they would, like cord up together. Yeah. And then they would go, I see you. And what they meant was, I can see you. Like, I see you for who you are. And that's like a really cool human connection, is when you see someone, like you really can see them. And that means you're with them in that moment. Yeah. And that sounds kind of like, oh, it's like kind of out there, but it's not. It's like, we really need that for our health. And I just came away from that thinking, wow, that's really something I'm going to work on, is more human connection and more authentic human connection, where you're really there.
Did we talk about the Mr. Rogers documentary? Did I tell you this story? Because it's exactly what you're talking about. This one guy was, and I loved Mr. Rogers. I don't know if you did, but I loved the guy. Did you love Mr. Rogers?
Oh my gosh, I was faithful to that show.
Yes.
Faithful.
Did you see the documentary that came out about him a year ago?
No.
You've got to see. It's called Won't You Be My Neighbor? But there was another one that I saw on Amazon Prime. And this journalist was interviewing Mr. Rogers on the phone. He was going to go into the house and hang out with him, but they did kind of a pre-thing on the phone. And the guy said, and Mr. Rogers says, so Jim, your name's Jim Jones, right? Yeah, Jim Jones, whatever. Says, do you know what the most important thing in the world to me is? No. Talking to Jim Jones right now. And at first, what the guy thought was, okay, Mr. Rogers being, Mr. Rogers. Yeah. But what he was saying was whenever he was with somebody, for that moment in time, that person was the most important thing in his life.
Right.
What a great lesson. And that's what you're talking about. And it's something we all should probably get better at, right?
Don't you think, I agree, don't you think that's why he and his little train were so popular? Because you could feel that on that show. I mean, it was total cornball show, right? It was cornball. But it was so, like, you were so dialed in because you could just feel the energy coming from him, like he was really connected up with his audience. Yeah. And I think that's so cool that we all have the ability to do that, but we don't really allow ourselves the time and the energy and the patience to do it. And I'm going to be dedicated to doing that because I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's a great lesson. All right, so you are, we got into the heart a little, or the brain, excuse me. We got into the brain a little bit. Brain. We just did a little thing on the heart right there. Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the brain, and before in the last show, if you missed it, go back because you don't want to. But you were really kind of focused on there's all these different things going on, and so we're not really giving our brain the fuel to be able to think properly.
Right. So one thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about today is 8 things that can happen to your brain when you're under stress. So 8
Let me
ways.
Ask you, do you have like 8 things that would happen to your brain if you're under stress, like a list or something?
Thank you for that. Slightly delayed. Nice preamp.
What are the 8 things?
Yeah, 8 ways that stress can cause your brain to be sick. That's what I want to talk about. Let's just get it out. Okay. Yes. Okay, number 1. I'm going to read them. Stress depletes you of precious brain chemicals like serotonin and dopamine that cause depression and anxiety. So there is a connection between stress and depletion of the brain chemicals that you need to not be stressed and anxious. Good example. I did a national podcast earlier today, and the host of the show told me that her best friend was really experiencing toxic stress. She's a high executive, a lot of pressure, 2 children at home, not enough support in the home, and outside the home. And she was feeling super anxious and not sleeping, which makes you even more anxious. So she goes into her doctor. She tells her doctor, I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't get back to who I was. I can't get back to the person that used to be able to handle this kind of stress. Well, hello, because you're not that same person, because now too much time has gone on and you've depleted your brain chemicals and not replaced them. So she goes into her doctor and she gets a prescription for Lexapro to try to help that anxiety. Wrong answer.
Why?
That's not what you should be doing unless it's life or death. Like, that is a rescue drug. What should happen is, let's talk about what's going on in your life. Let's talk about what neurobrain chemical you might be low in, and let's replace that naturally with some adjustment of maybe some lifestyle habits that you could easily implement. Breathing, eating well, turning your brain off 10 minutes a day, taking some time out in the afternoon, walking outside into nature, which is unbelievably healing. And maybe we can use Lexapro as the backup plan. Because the problem is Lexapro has all sorts of side effects that cause ongoing problems, including hormone depletion. It depletes your body of testosterone, which women need to be strong, emotionally strong. So anyway, okay, I won't get off on that.
That's okay. You're on a roll. You're on a roll, Nisha. Keep going, baby. Keep going.
Serotonin is related to depression and anxiety. It's also related to lack of zest and enthusiasm. It causes cravings, lack of motivation for life. So it's really kind of an important brain chemical to have optimal, but stress lowers it, number one. Number two, stress halts the production of new brain cells. I'm going to say that again. Stress halts the production of new brain cells.
So that's one of my big problems.
Why in the world would we want a smaller brain? I'm going to take every single ounce of gray matter that I can get, right? Because I need it. Why would we let stress reduce the amount of new brain cells or the size of our brain? Because both of them go down with stress. But there's just so many ways that you can reduce your body's reaction to stress, which would help these two things not happen, which we'll talk about in a minute. So that's number two. Number three, chronic stress. And this actually can happen with acute stress too. Chronic and acute stress cause brain fog and emotional instability. So if you're wondering why you're jammed up in your brain, or why you can't remember things, or why you just kind of like walking around in a fog. This is a really common problem, by the way, Rusty.
Okay.
A lot of people have the inability to concentrate. A lot of people have an inability to focus, and they think they have ADD, and it's really stress. It's stress. They're not slowing down and taking one thing at a time while they're focusing on one thing at a time. They're processing too many things, and then they're wondering why they're foggy in their brain.
Okay.
It also could because they're not sleeping at night, and that is a form of stress. Okay, number four, stress increases the radical damage to our brain. I'll say that again.
Yeah, what do you mean?
That's really straightforward. Stress increases radical damage to our brain. So when you're under stress, and stress really should be defined, it's kind of individual. It's a personal thing.
Right.
Sometimes it could be one specific event, like your child becomes very ill. You have serious financial issues. You're going through a divorce. You are having problems with a child that has gone off the deep end. Maybe you're dealing with an emotional issue with your mother, which is ongoing, and your mother ain't getting it. It could be that you have a very high stress job and you can never meet all of the performance expectations. Or maybe it's just you're literally, which is my life, you're literally going from one thing to the next without a break. You're just back to back on everything. You get up in the morning, you jump out of bed, you get the lunches ready. Well, I don't do that anymore, but with kids, my kids are gone. And, you're just literally going from one thing to the next. So when you're under that kind of stress or any of those examples, your body is increasing free radicals, and free radicals are killer cells. Okay. They kill the good stuff. We don't need to be killing any good stuff, but that's what happens with our brain on stress.
Okay.
Number five, stress makes your brain small. It really literally makes your brain small. We've got excellent scientific evidence that this is true. You heard it right here. Stress makes your brain small. And the research continues to show that high stress halts, like I said, making new brain cells and the neural pathways that help your brain focus and go between the right and the left brain fluidly. And we need to keep that in check. And I really believe why we're seeing more dementia and why we're seeing more cognitive decline early in people. That's not really dementia and it's not really Alzheimer's, but it's cognitive decline is because we're jamming ourselves up with stress. It makes your brain small. We don't need a small brain.
Okay.
Number six.
Yeah.
Stress increases the chance that you will have Alzheimer's and dementia. 1 in 3 U.S. seniors will die of Alzheimer's or some form of dementia. 1 in 3.
Wow. And you think it's stress. It's not the food. It's not the chemicals. You think it's stress.
It's on the rise.
Okay.
So we should be careful what we're doing with our brain, and we should be thinking about our brain, because I honestly can say to you, Rusty, I'd rather lose anything than my brain.
Sure.
That's got to be true for most people, right? Like,
right.
What can you do if you don't have a brain? You'd be the scarecrow.
Right. Be like Mike Tyson.
Okay, stress can lead to a toxic waste site in the brain. Every cell in your body is sensitive to toxins, but the brain is on top of the list when it comes to sensitivity. We have a brain filter that normally keeps us safe, but when this barrier is compromised by stress, there's no filter. So now our brain is exposed to the toxins that are created by stress. Also very scientifically proven already. And the last one, stress causes the brain to become inflamed. We know a lot about inflammation in the body. Inflammation causes pain. Inflammation causes high cholesterol. Inflammation is the start of most diseases. But guess what? The brain can become inflamed, and then the brain doesn't work well. And it causes disease of the brain.
So, okay.
I'm stressed.
I was going to say, you're stressed out just doing that report. Okay, so I don't want to be stressed anymore. That's obvious, but that's easier said than done, right?
Right.
I mean, I do 100 breaths.
So one of the things that I think are really important is to start talking about how can we get ourselves back? Like, what are some of the things that we can do that would be really, really good for our brain? And what are some of the things that we're doing that's really bad for our brain? And so one of the things right off the top of the list that many people aren't doing is getting a really good essential fatty acid in their diet. So a perfect combination of omega-3, 6, and 9. Okay. So omega fatty acid. And I like Udo's oil, Udo's oil. I believe it's like the perfect combination. There's other ones out there that you can have, but a daily serving or servings of essential fatty acids are really important because your brain thrives on them. The other thing that I would recommend that is pretty easy for everybody to do is stop eating sugar, because sugar is like stress. Sugar causes your neural brain chemicals to be imbalanced. It causes a rise in serotonin, then an immediate drop, and then it just starts that habituation process.
Okay, just stop. Just stop eating sugar.
Just stop eating it. If you put something in your, I'm just going to challenge you guys. Every single time you put something in your mouth, I want you to ask, is this in my highest and best interest for my brain?
Okay. Now,
is this going to feed my brain or take away from my brain? Which one is it? Because it's only, you got a 50-50.
Okay. Now, just about anything that's processed or you get in the store is going to have some kind of sugar in it, isn't it? Or the corn syrup? No?
No. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store, because all the good stuff's in the perimeter of the grocery store. We got fruits, vegetables, we got whole grains, we got nuts, we got seeds. Everything's on the perimeter. So shop the perimeter and stick with stuff that you know has not been all messed up by man. Okay. You know, all altered.
Are there any vegetables that you like better than others? Or fruits that you
my problem is I like every single food maybe on the planet, but colorful foods are the best. So, and eating a lot of greens.
Like I've heard beets are really good.
Beets are good. Just eat real food. I think that's the message. Let's just keep it simple. Eat real food. Okay. Don't eat fake food. Just don't eat packaged food, okay? Unless it's 100% organic. You know, I can't remember the name of those coconut clusters. You can get them at Costco. Oh my God, they're so good. They're just coconut clusters, but it's all seeds. Okay. And it's organic, it's gluten-free. They're so excellent. Now that would be an example of a packaged food that's actually good for you.
You know what I saw in the store the other day? I can't believe it. And I may have to buy one bag because I don't think you're going to believe it either. I saw a bag that looked like in the potato chip section, in the chip section, but it was made of bugs.
Oh, yummy. Thanks for sharing.
No, it was in a real store. It wasn't. Yes. I'm going to bring it next week because I still can't believe that they have those. And it's like, really? Now, maybe that's healthy. It's protein, I guess.
Well, I don't think we're going to allow the bugs on the show. Maybe I could do a little research on that first, Rusty, before we
I'm going to show you the bag.
I don't think we should let that one out of the bag yet.
Yeah, thank you. You don't even want to see the bag. So you've never heard of that one. No. Okay.
No. Okay. Insufficient protein in the diet. Okay. All you vegans out there and all you vegetarians, I am kind of concerned.
Okay. Why?
Because because I feel I'm not generalizing and I'm not judging. But vegans and vegetarians and a whole bunch of people that are not either one of those people are not focusing on healthy, lean proteins in their diet. Well, guess where all of your amino acids come from?
Well,
Well,
right?
not all of them, but most of the
But
good
can't
ones
they just
come.
take supplements then? I mean, if they don't want to eat meat?
Um, yes, I mean, there are some ways to combine vegetarian options, but here's the deal. And again, I'm not generalizing, but I will say that it takes a lot of work as a vegan and a lot of work, even I mean, more work as a vegan, a little less work as a vegetarian to get essential proteins in your diet. And why proteins are important is because proteins have amino acids, and amino acids are direct precursors to all of your neural brain chemicals. So if you want brain chemicals in optimal balance, you've got to have protein in your diet. You have to.
Now, you come from Southern Oregon, where I'm
Yes.
guessing you run into this a bunch, right? Do you run into
Yes.
a lot of vegans and
Yes.
stuff? How
Yes.
does it affect them? I mean, they always say, oh, I'm living Mother Earth and meat is murder and it's terrible. Obviously, I'm not a vegetarian. But I'm curious, what do you see in people that are vegans and vegetarians?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say if you live a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle the right way, you can be really healthy and really balanced. But I'm just saying, I don't think most people do that because it's very time consuming. And it takes a fair amount of education to understand how to get an essential protein.
Okay.
So that's my only concern is I think a lot of people are just living on carbs. They're living on bread and they're living on chips and they're living on crackers, which is all carbohydrates, and it's not helping your brain. So I'm just challenging you to try to get some good essential proteins in your diet, whether they be vegetarian or animal proteins.
Okay.
I prefer the animal, but whatever.
I'm with you.
Okay. So the other thing is magnesium deficiency. So magnesium is really important because the very foods and the drinks that you're probably drinking on a regular basis are robbing magnesium from your body. And magnesium is essential for making serotonin, which keeps you from getting depressed and anxious. Basic. So if you have constipation and you have depression, or you're kind of just a little blue, or you're feeling anxious, it's possible that you're low in magnesium. Or even if you have cravings that you'd like to get rid of. So magnesium deficiency is likely the cause, and we all should be on magnesium anyway.
And how do I know if I have magnesium deficiency? What should I be looking for?
Well, just those things. So if you're feeling anxious, you're not sleeping as well at night, you're having constipation, maybe you're feeling depressed, you have cravings, you might be low in magnesium.
Okay.
Now, just knowing that magnesium is essential for making serotonin. So don't take magnesium in the morning and don't take it with a lot of other supplements because it can bind to other supplements. Take it at night when you go to bed, like 400 to 600 milligrams. And I'm telling you, you'll start pooping really well because that stuff really helps your stool come right out. It's awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so that's good because we don't need poop stuck up there for days and weeks.
By the way,
months.
have you had a colonic lately? I know that was a big thing. You want to do them like once a week or something. No, it was once a month. Was it once a month?
Well, or once a week would be fine, but I
would be good.
know you don't want to do it once a week, but I think that I think once a month would be good.
Okay, all right. That was one that you learned at the camp too, at the summer camp with Bill Murray.
That's right.
The arrhythmia camp.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about an herb right now, ginkgo biloba. Ginkgo biloba is really, or some people call it biloba.
Okay.
Ginkgo biloba is a really good herb that promotes oxygen to the brain. Who couldn't use a little bit more oxygen to the brain? Now, I can teach you how to put oxygen in your brain by doing breaths, 100 breaths, which we're going to do in just a minute. But it does improve memory. It does improve concentration. It actually is really good for the brain. So you might want to think about that. And I'm going to end, because there's about 18,000 more things I could say, but I'm going to end on my last tip of the day for the brain.
Okay. I'm ready.
My favorite.
Yes.
It's my favorite tip. 1 ounce of chocolate at 3 o'clock in the afternoon is the most amazing thing you can do for your brain.
Okay. Can it be any kind? Does it have to be dark chocolate? Can it be Hershey's?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Any kind.
Dark.
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 Okay.
Dark. We're going dark. We're going black.
Okay, now I like the Hershey's Special Dark, but when it starts getting darker than that, it's a little bit too strong for me.
Yeah, okay, like 70% and up is acceptable.
Okay, but not.
I wouldn't get into that. I wouldn't get into the milk chocolate and all that. We wouldn't really want to get something from it. We want to get some good antioxidants.
What do you get from it? Why are you saying? I mean, everybody's going, yay! I really love Nisha now, but what is the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, so the dark chocolate is really good for raising dopamine. And dopamine kind of gives you a little bit of a lift, a little bit of a bump in your day. And we've talked a lot about serotonin, but dopamine is kind of like the sister to serotonin, and the two should be in balance. They're like brother and sister. They should be traveling together, or maybe husband and wife. I don't know, whatever. They should be traveling together. And sometimes we get a little up on one or a little down on the other. So 1 ounce of dark chocolate in the afternoon, or some people prefer to have it in the evening.
Okay.
But it does give you a little bit of a lift. And I have found that people feel really good, and they have a tendency to not have to have sugar after dinner, which is the habit people get into. Is like, I've had my dinner, now I just want dessert.
Right.
A lot of us were brought up that way. Our moms were like amazing mothers, right? A lot of our moms were amazing. My mom was amazing. She fixed dessert every night of the week. I mean, it was the best mom ever. How awesome is
that? Right.
Yeah, she was the best mom ever. She is the best mom. And so, but you become like, that's ingrained in you. Like, I just have to have a little something sweet after dinner. So try having 1 ounce of dark chocolate instead of maybe having a big piece of chocolate cake instead.
Right. Milkshake. Yeah. Milkshake probably not as good. What if it's chocolate malt?
Chocolate malt.
I mean, the malt may be better.
Yeah, you always take my suggestion and you just kind of go too
and just
far.
ruin it. I ruin it. Okay, if you want to find out more about Nisha Jackson, nishajackson.com. Also, you've got the Peak Medical Clinics, and they're starting to pop up everywhere, right?
We're expanding, which is good.
Wait, where to? We got Oregon, Southern Oregon.
We're going to Montana, and we're going to Texas.
Okay. Are you in Texas yet?
Yeah, we're coming to Montana and Texas.
And then Palm Springs too soon, or is it there already?
That one's a little bit on hold, but yes,
okay.
We're working Texas and Montana right now, and I want to make sure people know how to breathe.
Oh yeah, do the 100 breaths, please. Yes. All right, I'm ready.
Promise them.
All right, let's do it. Let's do a focus on you. Okay,
Okay,
you got
super simple.
All right.
Super simple. 100 breaths. You can do it once a day, or you can do it twice a day. I'm choosing to do it twice a day. I might, as I get acclimated back into work, I could be doing this all day long. I don't know. but for sure, do it at bedtime, because it's going to help you sleep at night, and it's so good for your brain. So you want to open your mouth like about that wide, and you want to breathe in, not so your chest goes up, but your belly goes out. So it's much easier to do when you're laying down, but basically you want to do continuous breaths, focusing on your inhale a little bit less than your exhale. So it's like this. About that fast. Okay. And you want to do 100 of them. Did that look really silly?
No, it didn't look. Right. It did not look silly at all. Maybe the hottest thing I've ever seen, but it did not look silly. That I promise.
Okay, 100 of them. It lasts like 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes. It's pretty fast. What you're doing is you're bringing oxygen in all over your brain and all over the cells in your body, and it'll just put you into this nice Zen state to be able to sleep deeper. And do it again in the morning, because it's a great way of doing it while you're focusing on your intentions for the day of being as healthy as you possibly can be.
That's
asking
awesome.
Yourself, is this good for me or is this bad for me?
That's awesome.
Everything you do.
Yes, everything you do. All right, Nisha Jackson is her name. The website, give it to me one more time, if you would please.
nishajackson.com.
That's
or
easy.
peakmedicalclinic.com.
Okay. And if you missed the Brain Show Part 1, you might want to go back and find it either on YouTube or Google Play or radio.com or iTunes, and we're expanding the podcast all over the place, both video and audio. And do us a favor, would you, and do yourself and your family and friends a favor, tell family and friends about the Nisha Jackson Show. Although you still want to change the name, or is this good now? Because originally,
I don't know. We're stuck on the Nisha Jackson Show, whatever that means. I mean, I don't know.
It could be the Nisha Jackson Experience.
Idea, you guys text in or Facebook in or whatever in your ideas. I don't know. Maybe we can come up with some the brilliant show. I don't know.
You know, it's already brilliant. All right, Nisha Jackson's her name. My name is Rusty Humphries. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next time here on the Nisha Jackson Show. Bye-bye.